But I want to be clear about this. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you do for a living. I don't care where you live. If you come into our city, commit violence, we will use all the tools at our disposal to hold you accountable.
We've got some brand new details emerging surrounding sports broadcaster Mark Sanchez after he was stabbed multiple times over the weekend. Surveillance footage obtained by the New York Post shows New York Post sports division of the paper shows Mark Sanchez bloodied, leaving the scene of this physical altercation that we now know occurred with a 69-year-old truck driver. According to the affidavit, here's what we know about the incident. It says in part, quote, Mr. Sanchez is seen running after Perry Toll, that's the truck driver. And the video shows Mr. Sanchez grabbing and throwing Toll towards the wall of the Westin. It appears that the two men are now fighting between the large metal green dumpster and the truck. Mr. Sanchez is then seen throwing Toll to the ground on the west side of the alley just as the car passes. Toll stands up from the ground and Mr. Sanchez is standing there for a brief moment before turning and running. Now, Sanchez was in Indianapolis to call the Colts Las Vegas Raiders game on Sunday, but was forced off the broadcast due to the stabbing incident. The former quarterback is now facing a felony battery charge, along with several other misdemeanor charges. In a press conference earlier this week, here's what Marion County Prosecutor Ryan Myers had to say about the state's self-defense laws.
Well, certainly Indiana has some of the most robust self-defense laws in the nation, and that's always going to be part of the equation when you evaluate cases like this and trying to determine exactly what took place. And it will certainly be at the center of this particular trial as well when we have conversations about were people acting reasonably or not. And in Indiana, you have no duty to retreat. And so those are all things that you need to consider in terms of when you make that initial charging decision. Those facts have been evaluated, and certainly the self-defense law is going to be an issue that will be raised at trial.
I have to tell you, Ryan Mears, a really sharp prosecutor. If he looks familiar, he should. He's been on this show before. It was regarding a child abuse case. Now, lawyers representing Perry Toll also have already filed a civil lawsuit against Mark Sanchez and against his employer, Fox. They filed this in Indiana State Court on Monday. So let's talk about who has liability here. Let's bring in our legal eagles attorneys, Michael J. Brown and John Phillips. Good morning to you both. John, let me start with you. Who has liability here and why, please?
I hate what happened. I love the case. This is kind of something that's right up my alley. It's got sports, it's got courts, it's got everything. You know, Mark Sanchez isn't one of these guys that's known for being a bad guy off the field. He's known for a butt fumble. That's basically his thing. And so it was a little surprising when he came out. But, you know, essentially, he's seen, according to the reports, intoxicated to Perry Toll. Perry's just there to do his job. He's the guy that trades out the oil for restaurants. And Mark has some issue with him being there at that time. And, you know, 38, 39-year-old professional athlete, former professional athlete, Mark, goes after 69-year-old hearing aid, you know, equipped, or I think he didn't have him in, you know, Perry Toll. And the photos that have been released of Perry are pretty significant, you know, as to his injuries. And it's different scenes of attack. And all of that rolls into what the prosecutor said. You can't initiate a confrontation with violence and then, you know, get away with it. And so, yeah, Mark got maced and Mark got stabbed, but he was the aggressor, and Perry Toll had every right to stand his ground, has civil and criminal, you know, Mark Sanchez has civil and criminal liability.
John, great analysis. Thank you much. Michael J. Brown, I want to ask you the same question. Where do you see the liability lying here throughout this case?
I agree, Julie. It's never easy being a Jet fan. It's even harder now. So what we have here is, as John indicated, a individual, Mark Sanchez, who's much younger, much stronger, much more agile. He is a professional athlete or former professional athlete, and you're dealing with somebody who's probably almost twice his age. And Sanchez is the aggressor. Now, you have to remember that you're you have to use the same level of force, and that's going to be the big issue for Sanchez, or at least his defense. But what's going to have happened here is Sanchez, because of his size, his age, his strength, this fella felt that he absolutely was in serious physical injury or death type of situation. He pulled out apparently his pepper spray, and that didn't suffice. And then he pulled out a knife, and then Sanchez went back at him. So I think Sanchez has a heavy road to haul here, and I think he's in some serious trouble.
You're exactly right. Excellent insight, Michael. Thank you. And I'm glad you brought up those details about Mr. Perry Toll, the alleged victim in all this here. We want to look at things from his perspective now and really dig into some of the facts that you just cited there, Michael. So we understand that according to the affidavit, he walked back around to the driver's side of his car, tried to get his cell phone. He says that Mr. Sanchez shoved him backward. At this point, things are escalating here, according to him. And he said he felt he was in physical danger. He said at that point, he reached into his pocket, took out his pepper spray, sprayed Sanchez in the face. And he said it appeared to have an effect on him for a moment, but then when he saw him wipe his face and again keep coming toward him, that's when he thought, this guy is trying to kill me. That's what he told police. So he said at that point, he pulled out his knife. And then he said when Sanchez came at him, he went at Sanchez and stabbed him 2 or 3 times, he recalls, with that knife. He said when he was on the ground, he could only see Mr. Sanchez's feet coming toward him, but nonetheless, he felt that it was a life or death situation. I want to talk about this from his perspective and what he felt, the fear he was in. And Michael, you did this a little bit when you gave us the analysis, but give us more, please. That was so good. So as you look at this kind of play-by-play, I'm not intending to make a pun here or anything. When you look at this, so step one, he tries by getting away to get the cell phone, right? So there's a little bit of a retreat. That doesn't work. There's the pepper spray. That doesn't work. Then he goes to the deadly force. Actions proper here in your view by him?
I think so. So, again, he's not the defendant. He's the alleged victim. But what Sanchez is going to argue is, hey, I did what I had to do to defend myself against this guy. But go back to initial aggressor, and you go back to the circumstances, which is much older. He's trying to deflect the situation, and even pulling out the pepper spray, that's not deadly physical force. That's pepper spray can simply, and it causes you to choke and maybe blind you temporarily. He's doing everything he can to get Sanchez away from him. And then I think is what's been said is that he then pulls out a knife after Sanchez attacks him. Yeah, I mean, it was escalated. It started, it escalated, and really, they're going to put the blame on Sanchez for what he did, and he really carried it one step too far.
Mm-hmm. John, let me ask you, please, civilly, who else should be worried here? Because we were thinking, we know that Fox Sports has been sued. They've declined to comment on the lawsuit. But we're wondering, might there be any liability at this hotel where this incident happened, or whomever owns that parking lot? I'm just curious who may else be facing something.
Right. Great question. There was a gut reaction when this happened to kind of cast it off as some sort of vagrancy issue, and that's not the case. You had a professional athlete that was on the clock, well, off the clock for Fox Sports, who just escalated this thing. And certainly Mark Sanchez carries the very large majority of the liability. I don't really see Fox Sports as liable here. But you add the pocket in. You as plaintiffs' lawyers, we put them in, and then they let the judge take them out. And as far as the hotel, at the hour this was, they could have sued the hotel for a duty to, keep the place reasonably secure. but that would take away, some of that pie, if you think about it, from Mark Sanchez. And they at least right now want to go after Mark Sanchez. They have a statute of limitations that's going to give them time to amend. But you want to win in criminal court, civil court, and the court of public opinion. And so they filed very quickly to get Mark Sanchez under the microscope.
John Phillips, that's such a great quote. You want to win in criminal court, civil court, and the court of public opinion. Yeah, that's the trifecta right there. Great talk with you, gentlemen. We'll leave it here, and we'll report any more details as we have them with this case involving Mark Sanchez.